Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, May 4th. This is episode 61 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. If you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Appreciate the support as always. Another week closer to training camp, another week closer to the season. As we continue to roll on here, we have hit the month of May. The draft is in the rear view. DiMari, how's it going, man?
I am doing pretty good. Pretty slow week, as you can kind of tell. Most exciting thing has mainly been jersey numbers for the rookies.
Yeah,
Other than that, other than that, it hasn't really been too much. But around this time of May, it is kind of pretty slow. We should get the schedule released pretty soon, and
yeah,
hopefully things ramp back up. Other than that, but we did get a few things this week, a few extensions, some other news that we can kind of go off. So, a little bit of information, but let's try to go off what we got for this week.
yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, the schedule release right around the corner. I believe May 14th it'll be released.
Hmm.
So at the time of this recording on a Sunday night, we're about 10 days away from that. So looking forward to that. That's always an exciting day in the NFL world. And even up until that, we'll probably get some nuggets. You get the opener, you'll start to get some of the overseas game, London, all that stuff a couple days in advance. And then, the full schedule on May 14th. So looking forward to that. That'll definitely create some content as we can look, far ahead and see strong schedule, weak schedule, top matchups, all that good stuff. But yeah, today we'll dive into a couple different things. Start here with some Will Howard, Pittsburgh Steelers. Can it work out? Then we'll get into Elijah Moore going to the Bills as he returns to the AFC East. We'll also get to some Amari Cooper landing spots and George Kittle as well, who makes history with a contract extension to stay in San Fran long term. We'll start here with Will Howard, of course, taken, in this year's draft, sixth round, pick 185, coming off the national championship, 4 years at Kansas State, of course, spent 1 year last year with Ohio State, 5 years total in college football. A guy that was definitely, right in the name, a bunch of the names of like, the Kyle McCords, for a while, Jackson Dart before his name really skyrocketed, but even the Jalen Milrose, those guys of your day two, day three quarterback prospects fell maybe a little bit further than some probably expected, all the way to the sixth round. The Steelers hopefully get their guy here. You look at this Steelers quarterback room right now, I still don't think it's fully complete, right? I think we probably can assume Rodgers is going to sign there. Maybe, who knows? I mean, at this point, who knows what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? He could come out tomorrow and say he's going to retire, and I don't think anybody would be surprised. That's just kind of the way he is. But I guess just what are your thoughts on Will Howard and how he projects, as we kind of dive into him as a prospect and where he could fit in with the Steelers team and really a quarterback room that needs some help. And if it stays as is, he has a chance to compete right away for the job because it's a weak room with Rudolph and Skylar Thompson as your only two other quarterbacks.
I mean, it's quite surprising he fell to six. I can't remember the last time where we've seen a quarterback that has won a national championship and kind of
Yeah.
had the year that he had Ohio State. I mean, 35 touchdowns, 10 picks. The last time we've seen a guy have that kind of season, win a national championship, was a huge part of what they did. I know Ohio State had the great receivers, obviously Jeremiah Smith, Egbuka, two great running backs, both who were drafted. But Will Howard, I mean, he had a great season. Again, 35 and 10, it kind of wasn't spoken about. So for him to fall to six is quite surprising. But for the Pittsburgh side of things, I think, didn't no disrespect to where Will Howard was drafted, but I also think a 6 round pick with us, yeah, 6 round pick with a chance to come in and be the day one starter is quite concerning for that quarterback room that consists of right now Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson if Aaron Rodgers, doesn't end up in a Pittsburgh uniform this year. But I think Will Howard has a good shot. I mean, I don't, we've bashed Pittsburgh so much.
Yeah.
Those other two just aren't going to do it. Rudolph has been there
Yeah.
for, quite some time and still hasn't gotten the job. And Skylar Thompson, I mean, he has started a playoff game for Miami, but then again, Skylar
Yeah.
Thompson, he's not going to win you football games in that division. He's not going to keep you competitive. So for Will Howard, I mean, right now you go into camp and you're just kind of like, hey, I am the day one starter and prove you are that day one starter because the other two, the competition is not too difficult. So, I think for him, he kind of steps in, and if there is no Rodgers, I think the floor is his. He has a great chance to hopefully, I don't say elevate Pittsburgh, because again, that division is so hard, and you look at
Yeah.
those quarterbacks, but at least keep them afloat, be competitive, maybe play some meaningful football in November and December. But I think Will Howard can do some great things for Pittsburgh, especially with now the weapons they have. So I think it's a good fit for him. I'm confident in what he can do.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned right for a guy that won a national championship, especially last year in that new format, didn't get as much attention as previous national champions would. Didn't get as much attention as a lot of these other quarterbacks in this class who weren't even in the college football playoff, whether that was a Cam Ward or even a Shador or somebody like that. But I think what really sticks out to me just from Will Howard and like last year is the way he played in the college football playoff, right? They had that terrible loss against Michigan to close out the year. He didn't look good in that game. Threw two picks, completed, I believe it was like under 60% of his passes in that game. They lost, and they were kind of going into the college football playoff. You were thinking some thought that Tennessee could go into their building and potentially beat him in that first round, and he was excellent. He completed 80% of his passes in two of the four games, including the national championship against Notre Dame. He had that big 3 touchdown, 300+ yard performance against Oregon. Another 2 touchdowns in the college football national title game. He did a lot of really good things. He stepped up when it mattered most. And I don't think he's a guy that has, like elite arm strength, but it's above average. And he does have the ability to hit all sides of the field, intermediate, short, deep. He proved a lot last year that he could be a threat as a deep ball guy. Like he was top 20 in college football in deep yards, and his deep throw grade, according to Pro Football Focus, had him at 96.3. So he's certainly a guy that can hit all levels. You want him to throw the short route, you want him to throw the intermediate route, you want him to throw, the deep route, the vertical stuff. He can, which I think actually projects well for Pittsburgh because they need some of that. Like how many times have we talked about this offense, right? We've crushed them, we've bashed them for kind of being stuck in quicksand. They had some moments last year with Russell Wilson where he has that, nice touch on that deep ball where kind of you throw it up and it comes down pretty, flat, just the way he's kind of throwing pies. But that quickly stopped. And Mason Rudolph's not going to bring that. And now you add DK Metcalf to the mix. You've already got George Pickens. You want those guys to continue to be threads vertically. You want those guys to really stretch the field and make plays. Will Howard proved he can do that in college, proved he could do that last year, right? The 35 touchdowns, like you were mentioning. So I think it's a good fit. And yeah, for a 6th-round pick, if they don't sign Rodgers, there's a good chance he's starting. I actually think it would be a bad look for Will Howard if Mason Rudolph, most likely. I don't think Skylar Thompson will beat both of them. But if Mason Rudolph beats him out for the job, I mean, Will Howard, this should be his job if they don't sign Rodgers. And I do think Rodgers will end up being, a Pittsburgh Steeler. Um, I just think I think there's got to be some sort of handshake agreement between the two sides, because if not, I think Pittsburgh might have went after Dart. Would you agree? Like, if I guess, where do you stand on the whole Rodgers thing? Do you feel he is going to be a Steeler? If he wasn't, I think you probably would have saw Pittsburgh take a Jackson Dart, or I don't know, made it take it somebody earlier maybe, as opposed to waiting that long. You know?
Ye- Yeah, I agree. I think they would have kind of maybe jumped on a Milrow or somebody a lot earlier. So yeah, I think I'm
Mhm.
right on with you where it might also be like a deal is probably almost close to completion. Rogers kind of wants to fill some things out, kind of see what direction they go in the draft. Because again, no disrespect to Will Howard, but you're not drafting someone you think could potentially be the franchise guy in the 6th round. So I
Yeah.
think Rogers, we will probably see the news of Rogers signing with Pittsburgh, but if so, I mean, even for Will Howard, if that's the case, you still get to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and learn. Maybe
Yeah.
not the best time during his career as far as what he puts on the field, as you may know for the last season and 4 games, but just mentally being able to dissect Aaron Rodgers and learn from him, that'd be a great thing for Will Howard. So I think I'm on board with you. Maybe probably a little later because you know how Rodgers gets. He likes to wait super last minute and who knows, might not sign until, the fourth game of preseason for Pittsburgh, the Rodgers thing. But I think he also will be a Steeler before this season officially starts.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll see how it all plays out, right? With Will Howard, if he would learn behind Rodgers. We saw Jordan Love obviously took some things from Rodgers, the way he's been, way he plays and some of the things that he does. You really never saw any, rookies take after Rodgers or young guys take after Rodgers with the Jets because, I mean, he tore his Achilles 4 plays in and Zach was thrown in. And then it was really just Jordan Travis last year. And unfortunately, he had to retire due to the injury they suffered at Florida State. So you never really saw that. So, yeah, at this point in his career, how much of a mentor is Rodgers? It's questionable. But I will say this about Will Howard. It feels like for a 6th round pick, and we both agree, probably shouldn't have fell to the 6th round, but it feels like a guy that probably has like usually your day 3, 6th, 7th round picks, you're just banking on the upside, the
Mhm.
ceiling. It feels like Will Howard has a much higher floor than your average 6th round pick, in my opinion. Like to me, I don't know how high his ceiling will be. I don't know if he'll ever be elite. You're asking a lot for a player to be elite in the 6th round, but I think he's a guy that can have a pretty high floor where he can come in and provide some stability if he lives up to expectations and if he has the ability to compete for the job right away if it's not Rodgers. And that's kind of what Pittsburgh needs. I mean, all of these moving pieces, whether it's Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Trubisky, I mean, there's probably more, Russ, Fields. They need stability there, right?
Yeah, and
I feel like he's kind of got a high floor. Like he plays the game smart. He can throw any ball, right? Short, intermediate, whatever.
I agree because he's also in the most ideal situation as well. I mean, you have two number one receivers, two,
Yep.
we've talked about George Pickens. I think DK is great. I think Pickens has the potential to be great. So, you have two reliable weapons, very similar to what he had at Ohio State. The only difference is you don't have a phenomenal running game. And, maybe Pittsburgh does surprise us with how well they run the ball this year. So it's almost like the situation is very similar from Ohio State as it might may be in Pittsburgh as far as the weapons. So, again, like you just said, and the stats show it 35 and 10 again for me to repeat it. He plays the game smart. You aren't leading a team to the national championship by not playing smart football, protecting care of the football, that type of stuff. He does those type of things. So it's just now, is that going to translate to the NFL to where the game speeds up? And he's not thinking too much. He's not making, the rookie mistakes, very cliche to say, and just kind of trusting his guys, letting the game come to him, which he did very well at Ohio State. So it's easier said than done. But if he kind of just takes that same approach he did during that last year, everything he did to get the Buckeyes to the Natty, let the game flow, pick up on it as the season goes, I think, him and Pittsburgh both are in very good hands.
Yeah. A very high football IQ. And that's not always, and that's why I think it's good value for the 6th round. It's not always
Mhm.
like you look at Milrow, for example, very good athlete, but questionable decision making. It kind of gives you sometimes, the Anthony Richardson vibes. We've given that, a lot. And
Mhm.
that's where he could benefit from sitting. Howard's not really that guy. Much more developed, much smarter, much more like not going to take a ton of risks, going to take what the defense is giving him, can make a lot of different throws. And that's really what Pittsburgh needs because it's been bad, really bad.
No.
And, you know, you have 2 receivers. We could joke, but all seriousness, you do have 2 receivers where if the quarterback play is not good, it's going to be ugly. It's going to get ugly very, very quick. So we'll see what happens. See what plays out. I think if you're a Steelers fan, you've got to just hope that this is finally it. I mean, how many more years can they kick the can down the road of not finding a quarterback,
Yeah.
or not? It's just not even. It doesn't have to be this elite franchise guy, but even if it's somebody that could step in for, can you just get a couple good seasons out of a guy,
Yeah.
as opposed to 6 starts from this guy, another 6 starts from this guy, whatever. Like it's just they need more. So
Mhm.
we'll see how it all plays out. Um, so that's I will say this too. If you do get better quarterback play, I think if you're a Steelers fan and just in general, you'd have to hope that would mean that the run game opens up a bit more, make the offense a little less predictable, open things up for the run game, even get the running backs as well more involved from a passing perspective, because that's something that they desperately need.
Yeah.
And is Jalen Warren that guy? Who knows? Najee Harris never really was that. They needed to be a little bit more explosive there. And Najee Harris always kind of felt a little slow, not really
Yeah.
explosive. So see what the rest of that group can do, right? Kenneth Gainwell, Cordell Patterson, they have as well. He's kind of your do-it-all guy. He's still sticking around. So anyway, we can now move on here to Elijah Moore. We'll get into some receiver stuff as well. We'll touch upon Amari Cooper as he's still available and where he could potentially land here as teams continue to try and round out their rosters post-draft. Elijah Moore returning back to the AFC East, of course, drafted by the Jets in 2021. 2 seasons there, 2 seasons in Cleveland, now back with Buffalo, or back in the AFC East with Buffalo. 1-year deal worth up to $5 million. I'll be honest, this just feels like one of these savvy Bills under the radar receiver signings that is going to work because Josh Allen's elite, and especially guys like Elijah Moore, those kind of speed underneath players, feel like Josh Allen's going to utilize him a lot and get a lot out of him. Elijah Moore's had a very bumpy start to his career. I think the best way to describe him, he's shown flashes. It was an ugly ending with the Jets, only 2 years in, right? Requested the trade in year 2. Was an ugly ending, never lived up to any of the expectations for being selected 34th overall, which is right a premium second round pick, just the second pick in the second round. And then goes to Cleveland. The biggest thing for Elijah Moore is he's shown flashes, but he's never been able to put it together for a full season. So what are your thoughts on this move? Do you feel this is an opportunity for him to take off where we've seen guys do that with Josh Allen?
Well, for your sake, as a Jets fan, I'm sorry for the like 1,100 yards he might put up this year because that's just the way it's gonna go, right? Back in the division, play him
Yeah.
twice a year. I like the move. I think you worded it perfectly where it's flashes. You've seen some very bad Elijah Moore,
Yeah.
and especially last year in Cleveland, you've seen some very good Elijah Moore. So you kind of look at it from the angle of if he did that in Cleveland with DTR and Jameis and those guys, what is he going to do with Josh Allen, who loves to spread the ball around? And we have seen, Matt Collins get paid thanks to Josh Allen, and we've seen other guys kind of rise to the occasion when it comes to Josh Allen. And I think we've said this before, but it kind of seems like with Allen as of lately, especially like the last 3 years, it's almost Brady like the way he gets the most out of his receivers. And you take a bunch of guys that maybe, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, whatever the case is, and turn them into legit stars when it matters the most. So for Elijah Moore, I mean, I think this is a great fit for both sides. For Buffalo, you get a guy that isn't going to care too much about stats, isn't going to care too much about getting the ball in his hands. He just wants, go out there, do what he has to do to help them win. For Josh Allen, you get another weapon. And you said it where Elijah Moore's that speedy underneath guy. Josh Allen loves those type of things, or the typical out in the pocket. Hey, he's down there somewhere. Let me throw the ball down there with Elijah Moore's speed. So I like this move for both sides. Um, would I say this makes Buffalo a contender? Probably not, but I'm gonna say this they're already a contender, so let me rephrase. I want to say this puts them over the top and Buffalo's finally gonna beat Kansas City and they got their answer. But this does make the offense a lot more dangerous. This makes Josh Allen a lot more dangerous. And for Elijah Moore, again, you just gotta go there, be available, have Josh Allen trust you. And I honestly think this might be one of those things where hey, you get a nice, decent payday thanks to Josh Allen.
Yeah. And I'll say this, just kind of a side note, the whole Kansas City thing with the Bills, right? Like you mentioned, I don't know if there's anything that the Bills can do. I think it's just going to come down to they either have to hope that Kansas City gets knocked out, or that's just where we've gotten with this. Just
Yeah.
in general, with the Bills getting to a Super Bowl, they kind of just gonna have to get lucky. Like seriously, I mean, I think we did an episode right when the season ended after they lost the AFC title game about what's next for the Bills, and there's really nothing that they could do. I mean, they got Bosa. Maybe if they would have went out and traded for Myles Garrett, getting that elite pass rusher, if he didn't stay in Cleveland, maybe that would have been it. But even then, like after seeing what Mahomes and that team went through in the Super Bowl from a, protection standpoint, but even then though, I think they just have to hopefully beat him once. I mean, they can't get over the hump. They could I, I don't there's not they have the roster, they have all the pieces. They just at some point you get a little lucky, ball bounce your way, get a call or two, and just hope it plays out, at
The
this
thing is
point.
that it's at the point where obviously you want to beat them. You want to finally say,
Yeah.
"Hey, we got over the hump. We finally beat the Chiefs." But I think every postseason you are on your hands and knees hoping Joe Burrow and the
Yeah.
Bengals, Joe Burrow and the Bengals make it and match up with Kansas
Yeah.
City because they're obviously they are the kryptonite for the Chiefs is the Bengals. So
Yeah.
for Buffalo, yeah, I think you kind of are right on point. It's just like please just match up with Cincy, and after
Yeah.
that we can take care of the rest. I don't know who they can put on that roster at this point. Bobby Boucher, if need. I just don't think they can beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It's something about it.
No, yeah, you make a good point with that. It's really tough to say what they have to do. And for a while it was, oh, you got to get the Chiefs at home. Well, they got them at home last year and they couldn't get over the top.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, they had Diggs all those years, right? A number one receiver.
yeah,
They still couldn't get over the top. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, what running game too? That was maybe a thing. Like the running game wasn't great. Well, James Cook had a very good year. They
no.
still couldn't get over the top.
And
Um,
the cornerback room was
yeah,
lacking, and they went and they added depth to the cornerback room, and they made a
yeah,
Rasul Douglas trade. Like
yeah.
they've done everything that they have needed to
Benford
do,
stepped up
like
prior to the
everything they
injury.
needed to do, and still have not beat Kansas City. So it's
Yeah.
just how the dice rolls, I guess.
And even edge rusher wise, they got Rousseau, Epinesa, but they even went out and got Von Miller.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
tried that. Not that that was getting a premier edge rusher, but a guy with Super Bowl experience, a guy obviously was coming off very productive year with
yeah,
what, right? That was right after the Rams year, I
yeah.
believe, was when he signed. And even if you got that obviously blew up in their face. But yeah, they've tried just about everything, and it still hasn't worked. So, like you said, they've got to bank on Kansas City getting knocked out or just hoping that you get a ball to bounce your way, get a couple calls your way. I mean, make your field goals because Tyler Bass, missed that one against Kansas City last
Mm.
year. So that could come down to it. It's just a little luck, I guess. But yeah, in terms of Elijah Moore, um, he's shown flashes, right? I think that's the biggest thing. We talked about that, now is, towards the end of his rookie year with the Jets, I always go back to there was that 4-game stretch, 5-game stretch, even maybe 6-game stretch, because I believe it started in the Mike White game going way back,
Yeah,
where the first Mike White game, where he had a couple, I think he had like 60 something yards that day. Then he had a really good game against Miami later in that year. That was with Flacco actually playing, where he had 140 plus yards, a touchdown, big day. Showed flashes there. Obviously, over the last 2 years with Cleveland, has shown flashes, but has never been able to put it fully together. And I don't think he'll ever be the receiver that the Jets or us Jet fans thought we were getting. I just don't think so. But can he still be a productive player? Yeah. With Josh Allen, certainly. You just look at some of these names that Josh Allen has elevated. I mean, you even just look at Khalil Shakir. This was a 5th-round pick. Even Gabe Davis. I know he got hurt, but you look at Gabe Davis last year, even prior to the injury, he was a non-factor. He had, 200 something yards in 10 games? He was a non-factor even prior to the injury. Obviously, we talk about Mac Hollins, another one who took off with Josh Allen. I mean, there is a lot of names
wow.
that everyone talks about Diggs there for a while, but a lot of names that Josh Allen just has been able to turn into very, very productive players, productive receivers that you would never think
Yeah.
would be the case. So, and it's that type of like speedy wide receiver, kind of that Khalil Shakir type, where he can catch the ball in space and make a difference in space, where make guys miss and pick up a decent chunk of yak. Um, And you look at the way the Bills have built this receiving core, they've built it up very similar to, right? They're going to kind of find the B, C level guys. They
Yeah.
signed Josh Palmer. Now they add Elijah Moore. They already have Khalil Shakir. They have Keon Coleman. They still got, Curtis Samuel. I would say this room, right, if you would agree, probably better than what we were talking about it last year. Like last
Yeah.
year was the first time we really were questioning the Bills as a team. And then after seeing what happened last year, now it's like, okay, Josh Allen can really, you know, do damage
It,
without Diggs.
little off topic, but I think you kind of just said something that kind of made the light bulb in my head go off. You said, Buffalo signing all these B and C level guys and turn them into good players when it matters. Jerry Jones, I know you're trying that same thing, but it doesn't work for everybody. So go go get a receiver. Stop relying on Jalen Brooks and
Yeah.
company along with CeeDee Lamb. Just if you were curious, like it works for Josh Allen does not mean it's working in Dallas for Dak Prescott. And yeah, that's all I got for that as far as today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a good point. And I also think it's just the way Josh Allen plays. I think
Yeah,
he's better when he doesn't have a number one. I think he's
yeah.
better when he doesn't have a guy who demands the ball, wants the ball, is going to get upset if he doesn't want the ball. I think he's best when he can, if he's rolling out and extending the play, just finding the guy that's open, as opposed to where is Stephon Diggs, or right before the play starts, as opposed to having your eyes already locked on Diggs, right? Being okay with settling for your second or third read on that play. Right. They've been able to get both tight ends involved. Kincaid, a little bit of a, I thought Kincaid was going to be better last year, actually, than what he
Yeah.
was. His rookie year was really good. Last year, I thought he was going to take off, didn't. That hurt me in fantasy football, certainly. I took the upside with Dalton Kincaid. So that aspect didn't really work out. But yeah, I mean, even Ty Johnson. And it annoys me. And this, I'm telling you, and I know you said it. It's going to, I do not want to see, right? Do not want to see Elijah Moore have any success in Buffalo, but you do just have that feeling like he's going to have a big year. And even Ty Johnson, who was terrible with the Jets, he couldn't catch a cold. Now all of a sudden is playing a role with the Bills. It's like makes no sense. They turn these no names into productive players. I mean, Matt Collins was awful. We were clowning him for it. And he goes out there and puts up, 380, 370 yards, which is good for Matt Collins,
Yeah.
right? Good for a guy that couldn't find a job anywhere else. And he made some big plays, some big catches too. So I don't get it. I don't get it. It's really annoying, but it works, I guess. But yeah, you think, just looking at the numbers, Khalil Shakir, 821 yards last year. You think he probably leads the way again? And then what? You think Keon Coleman 2, Elijah Moore 3, or you think Elijah Moore 2 in terms of
Uh
yards at the end of this? Last year, it was Shakir, Keon Coleman, Kincaid, and then Matt Collins. So Matt Collins was third against among receivers. I mean, heck,
uh
they had Amari Cooper, and even him. Let you know, let's feed other guys.
I hate to be that guy, but Keon Coleman was so disappointing last year.
Yeah,
Just I think, I think it's going to be Shakir, Moore, and Coleman. I don't think Coleman has a terrible year, but from what we saw last year, I just don't see a humongous jump as far as
yeah.
production. So, I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be serviceable, but what they drafted him to be, I don't think they're going to get that out of him. So, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. He just doesn't scream like number one wide receiver
no,
material. He's just not very quick, not a great route runner.
he's
Kind
very
of,
Michael Gallup like.
yeah. You just watch him and nothing really pops off. He
Yeah,
doesn't have elite speed, doesn't have great hands. There's nothing really that pops off the charts. Can he be a 700-yard guy? Sure.
yeah.
But that's probably it. 700, 800 yards. Maybe he stumbles into a 1,000-yard season once, possibly. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think. And as a terms of who was still on the board, there was certainly names out there when they traded out that were better than Keon Coleman, or at least projected better. You know, um, what they took. Trying to see who did they take here. I'm trying to look
Let's see.
as to see who they took Keon Coleman over
Last year,
last year.
2024.
2024. Let's see. So Keon Coleman was first. Lad McConkney. McConkney would have been disgusting on the Bills.
Yeah, that's the perfect
That was perfect
Josh
fit.
Allen type of guy.
All right, he was taking a Jalen Polk. He's didn't do anything. A.D. Mitchell.
That speed with Josh Allen would have been dangerous.
Yeah. Malachi
Let's
Corley,
see.
who's awful. Not him. um,
Actually, going through this second and third round,
not
they
great.
they might have grabbed the best that they could have grabbed. I
Yeah.
mean,
Troy Franklin, I had some flashes last year. I mean, in that
yeah,
wild card game, of course. But
yeah.
I think you got to see more out of him. I mean, Keon Coleman was better than Troy Franklin statistically. I mean, he was better than him last year. But
Other than that, I mean, now we're
yeah.
getting into the Luke
Yeah, I
McCaffreys
mean,
and the Jalen
remember Javon
McMillans.
Baker with the I'm gonna even make people in wheelchairs stand up.
I make people in wheelchairs stand up.
That
You
really
did not do that, buddy.
no, he did not. He made people sit down.
He, he did not do that. Oh, this was
And
not a
last year's
good.
receiver class was disappointing.
Did this?
And
I'm
I was
on.
wrong. I thought maybe we would find it. I would have taken AD Mitchell.
Yeah,
AD
I agree.
Mitchell and Lad McConkney. Definitely.
This class is actually kind of
Amari
disgusting.
Thrash. He was nothing either. And he was solid. He had a good career. He productive player at Louisville. But even him
After round two, I mean, it's bad. It's
yeah.
very bad. So I guess they got
Yeah.
best they
I
could,
guess
but
they out of what they were working with, hindsight
yeah.
2020, they got really their best option. I'll say this. Yeah, because even Johnny Wilson, he didn't do anything.
Oh,
I'll say this with the um I guess just Bill stuff. If I think Malachi Corley could have been like a good player for them. Maybe.
again, it's
If
the
they
Josh
used him.
Allen
Like
effect. Yeah, if they
yeah.
used him right, it's the Josh Allen effect.
He did nothing last year for the Jets.
Oh,
They
he
didn't
dropped
really
the ball.
use him. Yeah, he dropped the ball before
He
the
dropped
end.
the ball before the end zone, but that was about it.
But just those underneath speed yak guys are good for the Bills. But yeah, I mean, out of all the names, yeah, Keon Coleman was certainly the best.
Yeah.
Or arguably the best that they could have taken based on what they were dealing with. And it's an ugly. It's crazy how much like you look back and see these fifth and sixth rounds, not even just from even just in a year. It's crazy to see how many names that aren't even in the league. You know, it's wild. But anyway, yeah. So Bills, Elijah Moore back in the AFC East. I mean, another low radar free agent wide receiver signing that will probably have a very big year because of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And you look at the Bills as a whole, I mean, no reason this team should not be right back into. Last year was the year to doubt the Bills.
Yeah.
Now we've learned that they're going to be fine. It's just can they get past the beast in Kansas City?
Mm-hmm.
That's even Cincinnati's unknown because Cincinnati went into their building and beat them in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So even that's unknown. We really don't. It's just can they get a good enough path in the playoffs to get there? Hopefully not, right? Because I do not want to see the Bills in the Super Bowl, but that's only time will tell. So another receiver who was on the Bills, of course, last year, Amari Cooper, still out there, still available. Him and Keenan Allen, I don't know. I want to say I'm like surprised. I'm not surprised that they're still out there, but it feels like something should be happening eventually. One of these teams going to pick these guys up soon. Maybe they wait until training camp and see if any injuries, whatever. Um, but here we are. Amari Cooper's still available. You know what's crazy is he's not that far from. I mean, he's only 1 year removed from that big 1,200-yard season, which was actually a career high for him with Joe Flacco. And now
He's
you look at
only
Amari Cooper, and this guy can't get a job. It's crazy what last year did to his stock and kind of just did to his play. Like he aged a lot last year, you know?
and he's only 30, 31
Yeah.
in June. So like he's not too old, but I would have thought this guy was like Cooper Cup. Like how people have
Yeah.
talked about Cooper Cup this offseason, the way nobody has picked him up quite yet. It's quite surprising.
Yeah. It is to not even just on a 1 year deal to bring him in as a depth piece, wide receiver 2, wide
Yeah.
receiver 3 to see if you can tap back into what he was doing, a year ago. Um, I guess, look, he went to Buffalo and wasn't much of a factor. I know he was dealing with some injuries, but I guess people want to look at that and say, well, he was playing with Josh Allen. He did pretty much nothing. But yeah, it's him and Keenan Allen both out there. I actually think Amari. Who do you? I actually think Amari Cooper probably has more gas left than Keenan
Yeah,
Allen.
yeah,
Yeah, probably,
absolutely.
probably.
Absolutely.
Um, so some landing spots. I mean, we've thrown some of these teams or these teams already out there. Cowboys, of course, are going to be linked to them, right?
Hmm.
Always are. I would throw even the Saints in there as another team. Maybe a team like the Raiders. Um, I would throw the Jets too. I don't think they will because that's just not signings that the
Hmm.
Jets have made. They have elected for the young guys, and the Jets are very confident or sticking. I shouldn't say confident, but they are sticking with for the time being the receivers that they have, which is very risky. I think if anything, you'll see the Jets sign someone during camp if this receiver room is really hurting outside of Garrett Wilson. But what are some destinations you like for Amari Cooper?
Yeah, surely there has to be a Photoshop somewhere of Amari Cooper in like a number 19 jersey in Dallas. Pretty sure CeeDee Lamb would benefit from that. Pretty sure Dak would benefit for that if they ever wanted to possibly go that route. I wouldn't mind it, but yeah, you named the three spots that I had as to my top two, obviously Dallas and your Jets as well. Main reason being there's no wide receiver two on either one of those rosters, so um Dallas will be linked, like you said, for your sake. I mean, you know, part two, CD and Amari Cooper, or you get a Garrett Wilson and you get Amari Cooper. I think those are both great fits. Two guys that will benefit from Amari Cooper, and we've already seen what CD has done and Dak, in
Yeah,
Dallas. So I'm out of curiosity. I wonder what Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields may look like with an Amari Cooper opposite side. So those are my top two. And I also had the Raiders. We talked about their wide receiver group last week, kind of some of the moves they made with drafting Genty, Gino. I like their receiving room. I mean, the guys on there, the names don't pop out. Trey Tucker is serviceable. Jacoby Myers is serviceable. And
mhm,
another reunion for Amari Cooper, kind of back where it started. You go to the Raiders, you
yep,
have a quarterback that will get him the ball, even though, Cooper's not really a cry for the ball type of guy, but you have an experienced Geno Smith that knows how to get the ball to his guys. So Pete Carroll over there, who's going to make sure that Coop does have the ball in his hands. I mean, either one of those three spots, I think, would be pretty great for him and his best chance to win now. I know you said the Saints. The Saints aren't winning anything anytime soon
yeah,
unless they're playing in Dallas in week two during their 3 week Super Bowl run. But other than that, I like those three there: Dallas, New York, and the Raiders. I think those are his best fits, best chance to win, best chance to show productivity.
yeah. And I think you make a good point about finding teams that can win now, and I think that's where a team like Vegas or Dallas, of course, fits that billing really, really well. Where Dallas, you're right, they desperately need a wide receiver. Amari Cooper could easily boost that roster in a big, big way in terms of a needle moving move. And Vegas as well, right? You mentioned Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. They also added Jack Besh. Of course, the rookie at TCU, who very productive player. They added him on day
Mhm.
two. You've got Brock Bowers. You add Genty. I really like the way this Raiders roster is shaping out, and adding Cooper right back to that mix, back to the Raiders this time in Vegas. Pete Carroll, that coaching staff. I think that'd be a
Scary
perfect fit.
offense.
Yeah, it is,
That's a scary offense.
and you were spot on with the fact that they are going to get him the football. Geno Smith will get him the football, and if there was a spot for Cooper to potentially, I would say so. Like if there was a spot for Cooper to potentially become the number one again and win, it'd probably be Vegas,
Yeah,
right? Because
100%.
you're not, of course, taking over for CeeDee Lamb's got that spot. You're a number two in Dallas. You are definitely a number two with the Jets, and the Jets are not really close in terms of winning now. Obviously, not on the level of a Dallas or a Vegas, but in terms of a team that could be competitive, hopefully next year with a young quarterback, Jets would be that spot, or hopefully a quarterback that could take a step. Jets would be that spot. But in terms of like the Raiders winning and becoming number one, that could be your spot because Jacoby Myers is good. I is he a number one? Maybe. I mean, he had 1,000 yards last year with terrible quarterback play. Maybe he is, but I don't know. Maybe we're underestimating Jacoby Myers. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, I think he's pretty good, but he's going to benefit from having Amari Cooper and vice versa. So, I mean, for the Raiders, and no disrespect to anyone, but if I'm Geno Smith and I'm approached and it's like, hey, what you think about Amari Cooper? I would love
yeah,
Amari Cooper. I'm not working with, not that I'm not working with Myers and Trey Tucker, but it's like, hey, if you can give me a player of that caliber, absolutely.
yeah.
So, I like Jacoby Myers again. I think he is very serviceable. I think he's a very good wide receiver too. But with the option to add Amari Cooper, you do it.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, just what the Amari Cooper move would do for Vegas. It would help the depth as well in terms of get that room to be a little deeper. Right? Because you look at Vegas right now, their top two guys, Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. Now you do have Brock Bowers. So if you're talking about pass catchers, then you've got three,
Mhm.
steady players. But in terms of the wide receiver room, you are one Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker injury away from really two rookies potentially having to step up
Yeah.
and play a lot more bigger roles. Like Jack Besh is good, don't get me wrong. But for a guy that I don't necessarily know if you want him to be playing that complete number two role right away. It
Mhm.
maybe turns into the number two as the year goes on, but can be your number three. And then outside of him, you got Dante Thornton, who is more of your vertical deep threat out of Tennessee. So it would help them if you get Cooper. Your top three is Tucker, Cooper, and Jacoby Myers, not in that order, of course. And then Besh and Thornton are more of your, 3, 4, 5
Mhm.
guys, however that plays out. Deepens that room a little bit. So you're not put in a spot where you need to rely on rookies if one of those guys goes down early in the season, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, add another veteran voice in that room, add another, experienced player, I think could be beneficial too, just for the development of a guy like Besh and a guy like Thornton. But yeah, I mean, Cooper, Myers, Brock Bowers, Genty, Geno, that's an exciting combo to think about, in my opinion. Um, we'll see what happens. Vegas is certainly a lot better than they were last year. A lot better of a spot than they were in last year. And much better, more well coached. All right, we're back. I guess I'll ask this question. You think Cooper, just thinking, right, potentially, let's say, goes to Vegas with Geno, play a pretty large role. You think he can get back to the 1,000-yard receiver, or do you think those days are past him?
I wouldn't say get back to it because I think he's still in it. I think
Yeah.
last year Buffalo just him not being such a huge factor like we thought he would kind of, gave Cooper this washed look. But, I think he's always been that guy. Like I said, he's only a year removed from 1,200. And I think he missed a few games that year, too, with Cleveland when he had the 1,200. So it's just his lack of production in Buffalo. But he gets over to Vegas, again, with Geno and with guys that are very good, in their respective roles at wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think he gets over there. He definitely goes over 1,000 if he stays healthy. Because again, we kind of a little off of Amari Cooper, more on Geno. We have seen some very good Geno where he gets the
Yeah.
ball to his receivers and he's spot on, he's accurate, he's having great games, and Amari Cooper would feast. And then we've seen some games where Geno looks like maybe he deserves to play in the CFL. So I think if Amari Cooper can just get more of that very good looking Geno Smith, stay healthy, again, that offense kind of flows through him. The other guys help open the offense with all the weapons they do have. We should definitely see him go over 1,000.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very high on the Raiders. I'm trying to think if there was a team last year that was like super high on that just didn't pan out. I mean, obviously the Jets, I had a lot of optimism, but
I mean, we were both pretty high on Atlanta for quite some
yeah,
time.
we were.
In 11, 12 games, possibly.
Yeah,
And they stunk it up.
that's a good point. I was
Cincy.
actually, I think my Arizona Cardinals take was kind of on. I said the Cardinals, I think were like 8 and 9 around there. I think I
They were
actually might have,
competitive. They
yeah,
were competitive.
I was high on the Cardinals, but I just competitive in terms like that. I
Yeah.
didn't think they would make the playoffs or anything. I'm trying to think if there's ever been a team that I was like super high on that didn't work well. Because this year, Raiders to me, I don't think it's crazy to say this team. And what's so tough is the AFC West is so good. But let's say you add Amari Cooper and what they already have, and they're so much more well coached. That's another thing too that I just don't think people are talking about enough is the difference in coaching that they've had and what they're getting with Pete Carroll, right? And already has that chemistry with Geno. Is out on the West Coast still. I think that's all big factors. Colts. I was pretty high on the Colts. We were high on the Colts. That
Yeah,
didn't work
that
out.
was another one we
Yeah.
thought, but yeah, that was a bad one.
But is it crazy to say Vegas, if everything pans out, they can compete for second in that division? And I think you can make that argument for all the teams. Outside of KC, the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders, you can make a case for all three of them to finish behind them, assuming nobody dethrones KC.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. That division is going to be tough. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of just thinking out way far in advance. Let's say Houston wins again. Houston's in, and let's say Buffalo wins again. Buffalo's in.
Yeah.
We're talking two there. So, the AFC North can go any kind of way. Let's say we're talking about Baltimore, and then you're looking at Kansas
Cincy.
City in the West. So we're already talking
Yeah.
about four. So now it's kind of, between the
Yeah.
Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, who I am on board, think it'll be pretty good. You have those three there. And now we're talking about, Cincinnati, of course, potentially Pittsburgh, if Will Howard can just be serviceable. Maybe Jacksonville if they bounce back. Like, it's a lot of spots for 5 through 7. But, is it a possibility with kind of where you're coming from where if the Raiders do finish second, but let's say the rest of those teams all finish with 10 plus wins, where we're talking about 4 teams in that division all in the playoffs? Is it ridiculous to say that?
No, I mean it's certainly possible. I mean, you can make a case for all those teams.
Just,
I mean,
you know,
they all like to me. The Chargers are going to be. I don't see fall offs from any of them. Denver's only going to get better. Chargers are, I don't know how much further they're going to be able to get with Herbert, but for regular season wise, coaching wise, they should be able to get to the playoffs. Raiders is the biggest question because they're the team that hasn't proven it yet.
mm-hmm.
Just the coaching in that division alone. I mean, all four of those coaches can. I mean, you can make the case you have four top. I mean, you have best coach division in football by far.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be interesting because you look at the division winners, like you were saying. You have those four teams and you have three others. Since you throw in the mix, Pittsburgh, right? AFC South, is there anybody else that really scares you? I mean, probably not.
Not
Maybe Jacksonville.
if
Maybe.
T-Ball figures it out, but
Yeah. If Cohen can get more out of him, maybe. But the Colts are, geez, don't even. Let's not even go down the road of that quarterback room. And Tennessee starting over. Maybe Tennessee, and I would like to get into this in a episode coming up where maybe we can kind of break down a team where they were horrible and what team could take that big jump, right? We saw Washington, Houston take that, even Denver. Maybe Tennessee's that with the number 1 overall pick. But for now, realistically, they're probably not going to be very good. AFC East, I really don't know what's going to happen in the AFC East because to me, Patriots have gone a lot better, but how good enough are they? Like, are Miami to me just continuing to get worse? I think
Yeah.
it's going to get to a point where Miami's not even going to make the playoffs. And the Jets, my heart tells me they're going to make the playoffs. My gut, no, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Jets will probably be a 7-8 win team, maybe 6 to 8 wins, probably. I think they could compete for 9 wins, but like the AFC East, you might only get one team. You might. I mean, we went from talking about that division to being 3 teams to now 1. Miami's not getting any better. They missed the playoffs. Very chance they miss it again. New England, I mean, I guess it's as a matter of how much you believe in Drake May taking off and their offseason additions. It's interesting. The AFC is always interesting. It always is. And the NFC as well. But yeah, the AFC West is, they're going to steal playoff bids. That's the biggest thing. The AFC West is going to steal a lot of playoff bids from a team like Cincy, team like Jacksonville, anybody from the AFC East. So we'll see. But it'll be interesting. Anyway, George Kittle signed an extension with the 49ers, $40 million guaranteed, 4 years, $76.4 million extension. He stays long term with San Fran. They lock up one of the elite tight ends in the game. What was your thoughts on this? And really just San Francisco as a whole, kind of a interesting spot for the Niners coming into the season. They're one of the more interesting teams, not talked about much. Got rid of Debo. Coming off of a very poor 6-11 season after losing again in the Super Bowl. Interesting year. Very interesting year coming up for San Fran. If things don't go well this year, I think they could be in for some big change, even with this extension, of course.
Yeah, they're a confusing team. It seemed like it was a fire sale. It was like, hey,
Yeah.
I and Debo are for sale, and I mean, even seen. I think I saw one potential McCaffrey one where they were talking about it, and now to the George Kittle extension. So I can't get a read on San Fran. They still haven't extended Brock Purdy, so it's like, hey, are they trying to win now and get back, or are they in this somewhat of a small rebuild? Not too sure, but I mean. At least they're keeping Kittle for another 4 years, 76.4 mil with 40 million guaranteed, well deserving, making him the second highest paid tight end. And yeah, I mean he's deserving of the contract. He has been a very good tight end, not only just from real football, but a fantasy perspective too for those who like to play fantasy. George
Yep.
Kittle has been great. So, I love that contract for him, and he would be one of my favorite players to watch if he didn't play for the 49ers. So that's the case with that. But yeah, for San Fran's sake, I mean, I'm not too sure what they're doing right now. They are so confusing. But I guess you got Kittle for another 4, so maybe it is a slight rebuild, but still win now. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's still got to pay Purdy. They got rid of Debo. It looked like Kyle Juszczyk was leaving. Then he came back. And now you extend George Kittle. It's interesting. It is. The way they have approached this offseason. The best way I could describe it is they're in this phase of like they're trying to alter the core a bit while staying competitive.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to put it. I'm just still very, very intrigued, and I don't think they will do this or really should, but like if they do win 6 games, and again, I'll say this about the Kittle contract, good contract, well deserved, right? A guy that, puts up 1,000 yards pretty much every single year. One of the elite tight ends in this game, right up there with the Laportas, Kelsey, right, of the world. We know what Kittle does, year in and year out. But if let's say they win 6 games again this year, is Shanahan out?
Yeah.
I keep wondering that because hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs. We don't have to go through the whole list of all the playoff exits, Super Bowls, all that stuff. He hasn't gotten it done. Then you win back-to-back years, let's say 6 games here, and they continue to kind of tear down this roster a little bit more. It feels like this could kind of be the last chance for like this group of Niners. It feels like maybe where with, I guess, Shanahan, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think if they don't get it done this year, 6 games, he's out of there. I mean, they at least have to make the playoffs. Wild card. I want to say even a wild card exit, he saves his job, but you can't go from all the conference championships and Super Bowls, and then it's just, hey, now we're winning 6 games, or hey, we can't get out the wild card round. But 6 games, anything less than double digits, honestly, I think he's out. You have to start fresh. You already kind of started it now with Debo being gone and the ideal of kind of getting rid of IU. He's out if they do not at least make it to the wild card round.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, if you make a good point. Even if they get to the wild card round and lose, you can make the case that he's out as well, like you said. The Purdy contract's interesting, how that'll all end up playing out. I guess too, like, even if you extend Purdy, is Purdy a guy that can get you over the top? Like, what is Purdy without all the weapons around him, And I know they just got rid of Debo. It's not like Ayuk and Kittle aren't there anymore, but we've talked about Purdy a lot being more a result of the players around him, of course, CMC as well, than himself. And look, I mean, you do have to look at the Niners last year and say, they dealt with a ton of injuries, and that's a big factor too. McCaffrey only playing 4 games. If they're healthier this year, maybe they get right back on track, and we really don't. And maybe we're just reading into this too much. And the Debo move was more of moving on a guy that hasn't produced much really in the last 2 years, and they're kind of get a little younger there. Maybe that's it. Give Ricky Pearsall a bigger opportunity. Got Juwan Jennings, who had a big year last year, stepped up in a big way. So, yeah, it's a very interesting year for the Niners. Ayuk, even prior to the injury, wasn't doing a whole lot. So there is some questions there too. Like, at this point, what are you even going to get out of Ayuk? You start to wonder that. Like, what is he? I mean, that was a mistake.
He wanted the money. Now you got to prove it. There's no Debo there. All eyes are on you. Again, you still got Kittle, of course, but all eyes are on you. So, hey, if you're worth every single dollar you ask for, this is the year to show it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Big year. Kittle locked up. See what happens with the Niners and the rest of the NFC West. NFC West, interesting. Big year for the Niners. You got the Rams, who should be back. Seattle with Darnold. Arizona. Is this like the last chance for Kyler Murray to prove himself? Which team right now, and maybe we could do this in another episode, if you had to predict one playoff team from last year that is the bottom's just going to fall out and they're going to be looking for a quarterback 2026, or maybe not even just playoff team, but team. It's always funny how we could look at all these teams and one of them is just going to be so bad.
One team.
And there's always
this, for the first time in a while, this feels like the first time where almost every team seems almost set at quarterback.
Yeah.
But if you're asking for it, so this can be any of the 32 in the NFL.
Yeah, I'll take out playoff teams. Any of the 32. You can.
Miami.
Yeah. Miami.
It's going to be Miami.
Miami's a good one. I'll throw Jacksonville in there too.
That was my other one.
Like, if they win 4 games again, 3 games, and they have a top 3, top 4 pick, you can't tell me if Trevor has an average year, they're not even at least thinking about a quarterback,
If they have a stinker of a year, I hope Arch Manning loves Waffle House, because that's all there is in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Trevor's time is going to be over in Jacksonville.
I think the team that the Colts. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got to be. Even if they get something out of Daniel Jones this year, it feels like the Colts are going to have to take a quarterback at some point next year, unless if Richardson takes a huge jump. But maybe, probably not. I wouldn't say so. Maybe, unless if he looks, they're probably Minnesota, but I think they're going to roll with JJ McCarthy. Unless if he looks terrible, like he just looks lost and he has like a horrible year, but I think they're going to roll with him.
Yeah.
Arizona could be. I mean, I don't think they're going to be bad enough, but they could be a team where if Kyler Murray has another one of these average seasons, do they
trade him?
Trade him and then use that asset and try to move up, or it's a deep enough class where they can maybe get somebody. What were they picking this year? Like 18? Yeah. Were they 19? Something like that. I think they were just outside the wild card picks, so something around there. Could be New Orleans, maybe. I mean, probably they're going to be up there. Maybe Atlanta if you don't see much from Penix. It's just that's the biggest thing. Like, there's so much pressure on a lot of these fringe starters this year to prove themselves because it's such a deep class that even if you're you're gonna probably have you're probably gonna draft somebody because there's a chance you're gonna get 5 quarterbacks next year in the first round, maybe.
Yep.
So, all of these guys, whether it's what's going on in Indy, even Justin Fields with the Jets, like there's so much more pressure this year to perform because if you don't, you have such a big quarterback class in front of you that teams are going to have no problem cutting ties and just taking a chance on one of the rookies. So, yeah. So, anyway, that'll do it. Any closing thoughts?
Nope, that is all for me. I mean, perfect timing. I know we have some people that like a lot of sports. You're about to watch the greatest point guard in the history of basketball / shooter. In a minute here, but other than that, no, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, again, so we get some topics that kind of ramp up. Hopefully, Amari Cooper has a home next week, or Keenan Allen. Other than that, thank you for watching on this. Obviously, you will see this tomorrow. So early Monday, late Monday, whenever you get a chance, and just enjoy the week. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate you all joining us. We'll be back next week. See what the latest and greatest is around the NFL. You'll have some more rookie mini camps come out this week. Before you know, we'll have some OTAs, so that'll be exciting. End of this month. Get some content from that. Any other signings? Mandatory mini camp about a month out. And then we reach that 40-day period from June to training camp. So warm weather's upon us. We're almost there. So stay tuned. Appreciate you all, and talk to you soon.